Hello and welcome back to Asia Now. In this video, we're going to talk about what do people do to earn money overseas and live abroad. We're going to read the story, read some comments, and at the end, I'll go ahead and share how I make money to live abroad overseas and everything like that. Excuse my face. I just woke up from a nap. I don't know what happened. I passed out. Anyhow, here's today's question. Just curious, what does everyone do to afford to live overseas in the Philippines? All right, so of course, who doesn't want to live abroad in Asia, in paradise, on the beach, having a beer, having a drink, checking out cafes, restaurants, and living the good life, especially if you're Canadian, if you're American. I know Western lifestyle can be crazy and busy. Let's go take a look at the first answer of how somebody makes money in the Philippines. Someone says, retired military, 26 years, VA disability, Social Security income, IRA income, and TSP income. Plan your retirement early. Yeah, of course, if you have all those benefits coming in, then you don't really have to worry about much. I think VA is the Veterans Affairs Department where they go ahead and provide benefits to people that service in the military and other, I'm sure, I'm not really familiar with the US and the military and all that, but I know that if you put in a certain amount of time and if you're qualified, then the government of that country will go ahead and repay you with some kind of income monthly. And if you have disability coming in, if something happened to you, God forbid, while you're out doing whatever in the service, then of course you get more money. So of course, if you have that kind of stuff coming in, it can be very easy to simply just hop on over to the Philippines and just live the good life while getting that paycheck. A person says, I married a rich Filipina. Now, I don't know if this person's joking or not, but yeah, if you're lucky enough to fall in love with someone that has a little bit of money, you don't have to worry about it, right? You just bring your butt over and they're gonna go ahead and take care of you. Maybe you do some other stuff around the house, be a house husband or whatever they're called. Either way, very few of us go ahead and marry a rich Filipina or marry any rich woman for that matter. So I don't think many of us fall in that category, unfortunately. Someone says, I'm a long-haul truck driver. I winter 4 to 6 months in the Philippines and just live and work in the truck through the busy season. So I'm glad they mentioned where they live during the busy season, because if you're gonna basically split your vacation and your work life between the US or whichever country in the Philippines, you have to consider what will you do for your apartment or your house when you go back to work, right? This person actually sleeps in the truck, so they put in the hard work 6 months of the year and they relax the other 6 months of the year. So that's one way of doing it. I don't know how I'd feel about sleeping in a truck for 6 months. Although recently I found out there's a bed back there. They got like a bunk bed up there. It's not bad. It's like the size of a studio sometimes. Someone else says, if you spend your youth doing anything other than getting high paying skills, you're eliminating future options and freedom. Wish I was told this in my youth. Great point. Now, something I wish I knew even earlier than I did now is I wish when I was growing up, there wasn't so much focus on schooling. Like, don't get me wrong, I think schooling is important if you want to be a specific type of professional, a doctor, a vet, some kind of thing that requires education. But like, I don't want to offend anybody, but like business degree or linguist, some shit you can't really get a job ever, or it's not really, I don't know, doesn't translate into the real world. I wish I hadn't focused so heavily when I was growing up, because now at this stage of my life, I would never really work for another company again. It's got to be a very, like, I don't know, amazing offer for me to consider. Even at $1 million a year, I wouldn't take a job, to be honest. The freedom I have, I'm making YouTube videos, and I'll tell you guys what I do to make money at the end. But my point is, if somebody told me young enough in my lifetime that don't worry so much about post-education unless you know what you want to do, which I didn't, right? So keep that in mind if you're younger. Just if you're not really sure of what you want to do, maybe don't waste 4 years on some random degree that you may or may not use, right? So just my experience, my personal thought on that. Just curious, if you can't afford to live in the Philippines, where can you afford to live? I think you missed the point, my guy. It's not about affording to live in the Philippines, but you need money, right? It's not like you just get on a plane and go to the Philippines if you have no source of income. It's not, everything's not equal, right? They're not saying, how can I live in the Philippines on the same amount of money that I would live somewhere else? The point is, how can you basically earn money while living in the Philippines? You don't want to end up on the streets. You have to have some sort of savings, some monthly income. Don't ever come here thinking you might find a job as a foreigner. It's not going to happen. It's very rare that a foreigner gets a position in the Philippines through a Filipino company, unless you have very specific skills. And I don't really know too many people working for Filipino companies. I know people working for, Western companies got relocated to the Philippines. But even if you get a job in the Philippines, the wages aren't very high. So I don't know what the quality of life you may have, because you may not have grown up in the Philippines. You have different, obviously, lifestyle and expectations and needs and wants. So I highly would not recommend somebody just getting up and coming to the Philippines expecting to find a random job that any Filipino could do anyway. So why would somebody pay you instead of paying a local? I'm probably at a fraction of the cost. Another person says, mine will be rental income from properties back in Canada, but I think most are pensioners collecting a pension from wherever they come from. Yes, so that would be the ultimate goal, to have some kind of property to rent out. Every month you have income coming in, not just property, maybe a passive kind of business you could do online or whatever. I think that would be the best way for people to go ahead and earn USD, Euro, Pound, whatever, and spend in Filipino peso, of course. Now, I don't think it's really fair, or the question shouldn't really apply to those getting a pension, some kind of saving, retirement. I don't really know the programs that are out there. It doesn't really qualify, because that's not an easy way out, but that's an obvious way to live in the Philippines, right? When you have that coming in monthly, because you put in so much work when you're younger, you work for these companies, you put in the hard work. That's not really, I think, the question. The question is, how does the average person that's not quite yet retired can earn a living in the Philippines, or have money coming in and living in the Philippines, right? So the property thing would be one of them, because even if you're in your 30s, let's say 40s, whatever, if you were lucky enough to buy a home younger, or if you're young enough now to be able to buy a home, although it's getting very difficult in Western countries to buy a home, then of course, if you can have your tenants pay you monthly and you're spending in the Philippines, that would be, I think, one of the best ways of actually earning money while in the Philippines. Yeah, exactly. Somebody else confirms by saying, if you're asking because you're thinking about getting a job, forget about it. Someone's a Bitcoin trader, okay? Someone's gonna stay single. That's a funny one. I haven't been divorced, although, yeah, I haven't been divorced, but I lived with somebody for a long time, and when we split, we did decide to go 50-50 on everything we did, because that was just a fair thing to do. But I know divorce can be costly. I know maybe the person didn't put in as much as you did, and they might take half your stuff, man. So unless you're 100% certain with the person, I wouldn't even recommend any man getting married, to be honest, in 2024. There's very little benefits. I know I sound like one of these like Andrew Tate type guys, but it's the reality of things. Unless you're a really religious person, perhaps, or maybe, I'm not really sure, unless you find someone just as financially equal as you are, I don't see the need really to get married to anyone. But anyway, that's a different thing going on over there. Remote work. Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it's easy to say remote work, but it's really getting difficult to find companies after the pandemic to allow you to work 100% remotely and out of the country. A lot of times companies have security concerns, simple jobs as call center agents or whatever, because I would love to go back to Canada, maybe get like a Rogers IT job or like a live chat kind of job and come in the Philippines and work from here. But a lot of times those people have, even if you use a VPN, they can track your login information, and you don't want to obviously breach any kind of security, because it might be like a huge deal. You might be responsible for anything that might or may not go wrong. But ideally, that would be the perfect thing to work remotely, right? So whatever you do, all you need is a laptop. Go on into any cafe in your apartment, outside, use your hotspot, your data, whatever you got to do to work, earn that dollar and spend those pesos. It would be the ultimate dream, I think. I mean, I think that ultimately the dream would be to win the lottery, but not many of us are going to win the lottery. So if you have to work, I think remote work would be the ideal way if you cannot buy a house either. Yeah, another good option. Someone says, I sell my body. Another person says, I'm a gigolo. Someone else says something about brothel. I guess you have a lot of comedians, kind of shows like the dad jokes in the group. But let's just stop there. I'm going to tell you guys what I do to make a living. I live in the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries. Actually, right now, I'm not even in the Philippines right now, because somebody asked about this apartment, and I said this in Kuala Lumpur. Like, oh, you're not in Cebu? I'm like, no, I'm on vacation from my vacation. Anyhow, so what I do and how I make living, obviously YouTube is the #1 source of my income currently right now. Having my main channel, Living Abroad, and this one, Asia Now, of course. And so for me, that's just about enough to basically cover my cost of living. I'm not very wealthy, but I'm very comfortable. I eat out every day. I rent my own place. I don't have to share anything. I take vacations and trips. Like my flights, the past 3 flights I took were all under $150. So imagine that. Trips from country to country for $80, $90, and I have a big suitcase, so I'm not carrying just a carry-on. Long story short, YouTube is my main source of income. I also own a house in Canada that I rent out to my tenants. Although most of that money goes to my mortgage, there's still a little bit left over to subsidize what I make here, and that's basically it. So I also put in the work at a younger age, but I was fortunate enough to buy my house when I was like 27. So that's one way to do it. Now, for you guys, if you're considering coming to the Philippines, the biggest thing I would say is do not come here without actually having a guaranteed monthly income, whether that's disability, pension, retirement funds, your dad or mom sending you money monthly. Even that, I wouldn't really put all my eggs into that basket. But yeah, it's gonna be difficult to find a job in the Philippines, I think. It's not, because a lot of Filipinos speak English, right? So if you want to go to Vietnam and Thailand and stuff like that, you might find a job teaching English, even if you're not qualified. They don't really care. Even China, actually, China is the biggest market. But the point is, the Philippines, they speak English, so your skill as a native English speaker may not go as far, actually will not go as far here. And even if it does, you need some certifications like, obviously a TESOL, a TEFL, a bachelor of some kind, whereas in other countries, they might just kind of look the other way as long as you're white or Canadian, or if you have a Western passport is my point. I'm not white, but if you have a Western passport, native English speaker, some Southeast Asian country will just hire you. They'll give you a couple thousand, maybe less, maybe 1,000 to 1,500 a month. But in Southeast Asia, that's a great salary, and you have like a teaching assistant and all the stuff. And I don't want to get into all that, but there's always a way. If you really want to work in the Philippines or live in Asia, there's a way. In the Philippines, it's a bit more difficult because English is so widely spoken. Let's take a look at our segment yesterday, today, where we take a look at some of the more talked about comments. Someone says, refreshing to see a country enforce its borders. I think that's like a jab at the US because what's going on with migration there, but that's not just the US issue. A lot of countries having problems with migrants or people trying to sneak into the country. A lot of people had agreed with that one. Yesterday's video was about mail order brides and people sneaking into the country. So someone said, my Filipina is petite, but she wouldn't fit in an envelope. Yeah, a joke about the mail order bride. If you enjoyed this video, take a quick second. We're close to 3,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, but really motivates me to make these videos. Hit that thumbs up button. Share this video if you want to, and I'll see you guys. Oh, and if you want to obviously comment, if you take the time to write it, I'll go ahead and respond. I'd like you guys to be very comfortable with me. I feel like I'm checking in with my friends every day. Anyhow, I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. Bye.